This is the second 8 count. This is the rhythm guitar. For the most part, we learn these things and we think, okay, well, we know it. And then the moment you get out there, you start to recognize it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can hear the backup vocals. I can hear the second guitar. I can hear the third guitar. Is that electric or is that acoustic? Hi everyone, I'm Becky Deeve, and today we're going to do part 1 of our musicality conversation, our musicality topic, if you will, because it is a very, very important thing to discuss, especially among social dancers, where we really evaluate and understand the music as is and interpret it the way that we feel should be interpreted, right? In musicality, I believe it's very important to know why it is that you're using it and what it is that you're using. So, what is bachata? Bachata is it's a music style derived from many music styles from the Dominican Republic, anywhere from son, merengue, bolero, and so on. Today we're going to focus mostly on the merengue and bolero version of it because those are the instrumentals that we're going to be using. But in those styles, it's very important to note that many of those styles have evolved bachata into what it is now, and a lot of them play different parts in the songs because now there are 3 different styles of bachata, as we know. There is bachata tradicional, bachata moderna, and bachata sensual. So in speaking of those 3, we're going to kind of learn how to differentiate all 3, but for the most part, it's just important to note that bachata tradicional usually has a mixture of all of the instruments that I'm about to name. Bachata moderna usually has a bit of one more instrument where it makes it a little bit more of a slower, deeper sound versus a higher energetic song. And in bachata sensual, usually these are just remixes of songs that have added instruments into it. So now that we've differentiated the different styles of bachata that we have going on right now, currently in the world, there's new music every single day. We're going to get into the more interesting factors of it, which are what make the bachata music. So what is musicality in bachata? Musicality in bachata is far from just hitting certain instruments that are much more obvious to the ear and to the body than people can hear or feel. Musicality also indicates the music that's involved, and usually the music of bachata has its instrumentals, has its song structure, and it also has its framework and its rhythms, as well as added instruments, added rhythms, etc., so on and so forth. Now that there are so many bachata artists in the world, we have a tendency to see more and more kind of pop up differently in different music as the days go on. And lucky for us, because that means we have more music to dance to, and we get to play around a lot more because it's evolving rather quickly now. The first thing we're going to talk about in musicality are the instruments that you usually hear in bachata. Now, in bachata tradicional, like I said, you hear most of these instruments, the mixture of all of these. So I am just going to name most of the instruments that are played, and if you ever want to just sit down, Google, YouTube, certain songs, there are websites that can break down certain songs for you so that you know exactly what's being utilized. So hopefully that Tam can see this as well. We're going to be able to add a picture of the instruments used here so that you kind of have an indication of what it is that I'm talking about when I talk about these instruments. The first instrument I want to talk about in bachata are the bongos. The bongos are the drums. The bongos are important, if not one of the most important parts of bachata. It's basically that's the base rhythm of bachata. The second instrument is the guira. The guira is not to be confused with the guido. I feel like I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on that where they state that it does get confused. The guido is made out of a wooden frame. The guira is made out of a metal frame, yes? So it's really easy to differentiate, and it's also a lot smaller. The next instrument would be, the next instrument would be the bass. The bass is also very, very important. The bass helps set some undertones of the bachata that have now, especially in more recent bachata, start setting the pace and slowness of the bolero into the sensual bachata. Sorry about that. And we also have some guitars. We have rhythmic guitar and we have lead guitar. Usually the rhythmic guitar is the segunda, which again, it can play anything from majao, mambo, derecho, musical, kind of go off on its own. And then there's the lead guitar, which can also do the same. All of these instruments, by the way, can play different parts of the music, different rhythms of the music, which we will also get into a little bit later. But it's very important to note that for now, those are very, very, very key instruments to understand, so that you can understand the music a little bit better when you're dancing it the next time you're out social dancing. Also, on a quick note, there can be added instruments. There's also the instruments of piano. Someone can add percussions like a kick drum. You can add synthetic sounds. You can have different noises just entering the chat, and I promise you it'll still be bachata so long as you have the baseline of what the bachata music is, and it's respecting the evolution of where bachata is going. The last instrument, by the way, are the vocals of the song. Usually most bachata music has vocals, so you're always going to have your either lead vocals or lead and backup vocals. Now that we have all of the instruments, let's focus a little bit on the structure before I get into the framework of the songs. The song structure is usually made up of normally 5 very important factors, but like I said before, since bachata is changing every single day, many artists that are trying to be a little bit different now can add more or take away. For the most part, there's always an intro, which we know this has to connect with our partner. There's a verse or a pre-chorus. There's a chorus for sure, either 1, 2, or 3 times throughout the song, can even end with the song. There's always going to be a mambo part, which is a more energetic part for the most part, or a slower part for the most part. Depends on the song. It could be a breakdown, it could be an a cappella, it could be anything. And then you're going to have your outro. Oh, before outro, you might also have a bridge right before the outro. So being mindful of the different types of song structure here, you can start to really understand what it is that's playing. Now, before I continue going forward, it's also very important to note that usually the part of the song that's playing doesn't necessarily indicate a rhythm. The rhythm is usually set by the most exaggerated part of the song, whether it be vocal, whether it be the instrument, this instrument, or that instrument, yes? Those are going to be what sets the rhythm of the song. The rhythm simply just plays. So if you do play one of the rhythms, you can play it with the bongo or the guira or the bass and play it at the count of this rhythm. Another rhythm can also use these 3 instruments, 4 instruments, 5 instruments, and have a different feeling, yes? Now, before we continue going forward from the instruments and the song structure, I just wanted to make some things clear. In the songs, on top of the song structure and the instruments, usually there are pretty similar situations happening, similar things happening in most music. In most bachata music, the music tends to change every 4 8 counts, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 of those, usually the music will then rapidly change, either from slow to fast, fast to slow, slow to medium, medium to fast, fast to whatever, yes? The music will then have like a more either very slight or drastic change, and this also helps us become a little bit more aware of what's happening throughout the song. It helps us recognize it a lot faster. The second thing is that throughout the song, when you're trying to recognize the bachata beat is usually set at the bass. The bass is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is usually set by the derecho, which we're going to get into now. But it's important to note this because right now, before I speak about the derecho and the majao and the mambo, which are all the rhythms, the framework of the songs, I want to just make sure that it's noted that the bass is always going to, for the most part, be followed. And the way that we recognize the music, meaning the way that we're able to recognize the 1 from the 5, because sometimes people do get confused, especially beginners, is that in the second 4 count, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, of the bachata music, usually the 3rd beat of that 4 count, which is the number 7 and whatever part of that 7, is going to be a little bit lower or it'll be a little bit longer than the first one. Yes? So that's how subconsciously we're able to recognize it the more we continue listening to bachata, because we start to recognize that small difference. Another way that people usually know the indication for the start of one is when the vocals begin. Now, this is not always the case. Like I said, sometimes the music can change. Sometimes the vocals can change throughout the music. Sometimes the vocals can start on 5 instead of 1. It really depends on the song, but this is why it's cool to know the different parts of the instruments, because then you can kind of understand more of like, okay, wait, that was not an instrumental change, just a vocal change. Or no, that wasn't just a vocal change, it was an instrumental change as well, and so on and so forth. And that way you can play with the music more and play with your dance partner more as well. Yes? In the derecho, it's very important to note that there can be played 3 different instruments. Yes, right now I'm only going to show you the 3. I can show you vocals, I can show you the rest, but for now I'm going to just break down 3. And then if you want to go in further into it, like I said, Google and YouTube are great learning resources, and you can find almost anything there. And also, the more you listen to the music, the more you'll be able to really identify what part is what. Yes? So I'm going to use this song right now, play only the bongos for their verse, which is in the rhythm of derecho, okay? This is just the bongo. Let's see if you can hear it. This is the second 8 count. About to hit the 4th, you hear the count. Okay, same framework. Now, instead of the bongos, we're going to hear the guira. The bongos, just to remind you, is the bass, the basic beat of bachata. It accentuates what that bachata beat is. Like I said, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That 7 is changed, and the 4 and the 8 are lower. So it's high, 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 low, high, 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 low. Yes? And we go forward. Now, in the guira, for the derecho, you're going to hear it play every half beat. The guira, again, it's a... You're going to hear it now. You heard that change? Perfect. Now we're gonna play the bass for that same verse in derecho. And the bass now is gonna play a 1 and 3, 4, 5 and 7, 8. 1 and 3, 4, 5 and 7, 8. Perfect. So this is the verse of a particular song that is playing the derecho rhythm. And you see that in the derecho rhythm, the bongo, the guira, and the bass are playing to the rhythms that they're supposed to be playing in the derecho portion. Now we're going to move on to the chorus of the song, which is played in majao. Yes, majao is usually the chorus of the song. For the most part, the majao is going to give more energy in the song. It's going to give a little bit more of an upbeat. So you are going to hear the bongo emphasize on the note 2. And you're also going to see that in the guira, they're going to elongate really the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The bass here is a little bit different, a little bit trickier, but we're going to get to it when we get to it, yes? The bass is supposed to be a heavier accent on the and 4 versus the and 3. But I believe that every song is different. We're just going to focus on this. So for the majao, the bongos goes like... You see how there's emphasis there? Now, we're going to play the guira on the same majao for the chorus. A little bit more elongated here. And now we're going to play the bass. Nice. Don't you just love a good bass? Just a reminder, more bass usually leads more to central music. More solos, more guitarrita usually means more footwork. Now, on top of all of these things, we can always have more, yes. So these instruments can be played in different parts of the music as well. I've already named most of them. Don't forget that on top of those, there can also be more. There can be breakdown, there can be an a cappella. The rhythms can be different for everything in the song structure. But for the most part, we're going to focus on the three main ones because it's the easier ones to identify, to really kind of get with. Now, we have our mambo. This mambo here is played in derecho. And these are the bongos. Ready? Oh. Same. Guira. There's no guira here until the second 8 count. Again, every half measure. And then we have our bass. Now here it's different. In the rhythm of derecho, there's a little bit elongated note there on the 3 and the 7. Something about Mambo that I feel everyone should know, which, by the way, Mambo on the website that I'm looking at now is part of the song structure, not so much of the framework. So very important to note that the Mambo is not being identified as the framework in some areas, but if you go on another page, they will break it down as the Mambo being part of the rhythm framework. Yes? So Mambo usually is more of a rhythmic guitar, and it's usually the lead guitar. There's usually no singing, and a lot of the mambo evolves from the merengue portion of where bachata style is influenced from, evolving from as well. So for the most part, it's supposed to be the most energetic part and the most improvised for the most part too. Let's see. I want to see the lead guitar on the mambo portion. You ready? Oh, very pretty. Now, this is the second mambo part of this song. Lead guitar, nothing. This is the rhythm guitar. So we can see and we can hear clearly the differences that these instruments are playing in all parts of the music and what parts they're going to play as soon as they get into it, right? So in the mambo part, the first guitar that I showed you was in derecho timing, in derecho rhythm, but the second one was in the majao rhythm. These are being usually, like I said in the beginning, emphasized due to what is being emphasized in the song. So it's important to note that just because an instrument is playing or a rhythm is being played does not necessarily mean that that is the rhythm that is taking over. It really depends on the song and the song structure and what is stronger when that song is being played, which part is what's standing out. Yes? So that's our take today, take 1, part 1 on musicality, breaking down the instruments, the song structure, and the rhythms and the framework of the music so that we can be a little bit more familiar with bachata music, and that way we can kind of know what to listen to the next time we go out dancing, social dancing, because for the most part we learn these things and we think, okay, well, we know it, and then the moment you get out there you start to recognize it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can hear the backup vocals, I can hear the second guitar, I can hear the third guitar. Is that electric or is that acoustic? It's really fun. You can play with more, and there's always more to learn. All right, guys, that's enough for today. We're going to get back to you guys on part 2 for musicality, breaking down other factors of bachata music. Bye.